From an undisclosed location in North America, you're watching Card to Card. In this week's episode, I wanted to do frozen people. So, this is a very interesting subject to me. Artwork's pretty good. This is by Poncho, who does quite a bit of the Mizu art. And this is from the Cryptid Nation 2nd edition set. So, what is a frozen person? Well, I wasn't really sure what this card was depicting until I was looking over like the flavor text down there, and then I was interested. And we'll go ahead and read that. It says, the frozen people are poor souls who froze themselves in time in order to avoid the ravages of growing older. So, this was a big thing whenever I was growing up, the phenomena of cryogenically freezing people. I definitely heard about this a lot, but you don't really hear about it much in the past few years. You always heard rumors of like Walt Disney was being frozen, as well as like the head of Ted Williams, and people have even cryogenically frozen their beloved pets. And it does speak to the positive thinkers and optimists from the past few years that would think that someday man will be able to utilize these frozen bodies and reanimate them, and prolonging their lives of those that went through this. So, but here's where the true story of frozen people takes a grisly turn. Now, I will say, this episode of Card to Card is a bit gross, a little gruesome. So if you have a weak stomach, you might not want to watch it. You might want to give it a pass. But, here we go. Cryopreservation. That's what it's officially called. It got its roots back in the late 60s. And this process has gotten, much more sophisticated since. The early days were particularly gruesome, and a lot of the problems was just the people that ran these cryopreservation places in the old days. They didn't care for the bodies that much. They were neglected, just not good. They weren't super professional. The problem is keeping a body from thawing. So back then, if a body thawed, sometimes it would take years to discover that the body had thawed, and then the level of decomposition was just terrible. And some bodies had completely liquefied in their storage chambers. And in fact, only one body has survived to this day from all the people that were cryogenically frozen prior to 1973, and his name is Robert Bedford. And in Robert Bedford's case, his family actually took custody of the capsule, and they meticulously maintained it, and this was done at a great expense to them. And it went from various, professional storages, eventually ending up at this place called Alcor. This place is in Scottsdale, and I actually would drive by there all the time when I worked in Arizona. I had no idea what it was till now. I'm not kidding. I probably drove by the place 50 times. And Alcor, it's a modern cryonics outfit, and we actually have an actual picture of storage tanks at Alcor. Let me go ahead and bring that up here. On Card to Card. Okay. Here is the actual storage tanks where they keep the cryogenically frozen humans in. And these ones down here, those are for people that just wanted to preserve their heads. So there's actually bodies in these. We're going to watch a video later that talks more about this and tells you how they do this. But that's the actual frozen people right there in their tanks. and that's over at Alcor in Scottsdale, Arizona. So, you know, another top of the line cryogenic place is the I keep calling cryogenics the Cryonics Institute. But even with these modern cryonics facilities, there are big problems with freezing a human corpse. Often there is severe cracking and damage done in the freezing process that, if technology advanced to a point where they could actually, you know, work on these bodies at a later, you know, who knows, centuries later, they would be too damaged anyway. So the more modern approach is just to simply freeze the head. So they're not even that's the more modern approach, because the bodies just don't survive this freezing process. And the thinking here is that once technology advances to the point that it needs to go, we would have robotic bodies which would be controlled by a reanimated brain. Now, that could be quite interesting, I think. But overall, I think this idea of freezing people for the future will be looked upon as a gruesome, archaic, unbelievable, just a chapter in human history. And definitely true cryptid material indeed. Now, you have a video, like I was talking about. It's not really scary. It's just, you know, a gruesome subject. And if you think about what's in these canisters, but so there is some viewer discretion advised, and we'll go ahead and run that video about frozen people.
Would you like to see inside?
Let's go have a look. I'm dying to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I just say I'm dying to see this?
Yes, you did. You don't have to clinically die to see this, not truly biologically dead, fortunately. So all the operating procedures are being done, and we finished the intermediate cool down. The patient will be in a sleeping bag to protect the skin. And then, if you want to demonstrate, by stepping into the pod. These are aluminum pods. We will then strap the patient in. Bolt is closed. That provides additional protection so the patient isn't damaged. And then this pod will be lifted up through the skylight and then down into these dewars. And as you can see, 4 of these will fit inside one of these dewars with additional space for neuro patients in the center.
What about the people who are just neuropreservation? How do you store them?
Okay, we can get about 10 neuro patients in the same volume, but we have slightly different pod systems, as you can see. So the same size as a whole body pod, but here there's room for 10 neuro patients. And this is placed over the head, again for mechanical protection, just in case there's any external shock. Yep. Most people's heads will fit in there. We've had one that was a pretty tight fit, but...
we know mine fits.
Yeah.
I only care about mine.
And the patient, the skull will actually have temperature probes attached as we're doing the long-term cool down. So
where are
they'll be in the skull will be protected by some material. This will be placed over the top, and then put in one of these, which goes inside the big duo.
So how many people do you have altogether?
We currently have 117 patients, averaging about 8 per year, but varies between about 3 and 11, depending on how busy the year is.
Okay, very interesting. I wish I would have known about that place, what it was, and I would have definitely gone on a tour there when I was in Arizona. But anyway, let's take a closer look. I mean, it's really nice art. You got a person there. It looks like they're frozen. Looks like they're holding like a big old huge snowball. You got snowflakes in the background, but it doesn't really relate much to the actual frozen people. It does say date of birth unknown. I would put it in the 60s, late 60s. And the flavor text we already talked about. So that's how we knew this was actually about cryogenically frozen people. So pretty interesting. Nice job by Poncho and the artwork. And I will say that I think this whole cryonics system that people have thought about, it's going to go away. I mean, it just makes way more sense and seems more feasible for people to just be able to download their consciousness onto, like, digitally and put it into a computer, and then like upload it into like a an artificial body, you know, or maybe just take a small piece of yourself and save it for when people are able to be cloned, when human cloning is like something that's a thing. I mean, I think that's way more likely than science being able or even wanting to deal with these frozen bodies and trying to bring them back to life. So I think there's much more feasible methods of what these people were trying to accomplish by freezing themselves. Anyway, what do you guys think? That's what's really important. Did you guys hear about these cryonics places whenever you were growing up? I definitely did. And I always thought it was really weird, but very interesting. So next time you're, you know, feeling like you want to go visit one of these places and go tour it, you know, you definitely want to keep your eyes out.